I'd like to call the meeting of the Plaquemines Parish Council to order for September 27th at 2:31 p.m. Machine is open for roll call. Let the record reflect there are 7 council members present at the table. Mr. Lapine and Mr. Black is present, but they're not at the table at this time. I would like to, if there are no objections, I would like to move to item 4B on the agenda.
4B, Weedad Bait and Tackle LLC occupancy for a new commercial business in an A2 zoning district, 42124 Highway 23, Venice, Louisiana.
Yeah, this is a permit for a new business. I spoke to Ms. Amitra about it. I don't see her here. I've seen her a while ago, but, okay. They are in compliance. They're opening a bait and tackle shop as explained. If anybody has any questions on it, the owners are present. If there are no questions or concerns, I'll like to offer. Seconded by Mr. Edgecombe. Any questions or comment from the audience at the table? Hearing none, the machine is open. Permit is approved, 7-0. Let's revert back to the agenda. Well, Mr. Lapine is absent. Let's skip over executive session. Let's go to 1C.
Status report by the parish president.
Yes, for the record, this is Plaquemines Parish President Amos Cormier's status report for the time period of September 14th through the 27th of 2018. To begin with, I want to report we're conducting a full investigation of a security breach in our internet system and emails. Suffice it to say that there were some anonymous half-truths sent out on the parish server. We will continue our investigation, but just to clarify, lest the repetition of lies and half-truths become accepted, my administration has not filed any lawsuits. My administration has offered to settle suits at no taxpayer expense. Said offers were rejected. And we'll keep this council up to date on the full investigation of this matter. Also this past week, I'm proud to announce that wrote a letter of support on behalf of the IGP methanol project. This project is making leaps and bounds and moving forward. They are now, the United States Army Corps of Engineers issued a joint public notice. They had previously acquired an air quality permit. Now they're seeking permits from the Corps. There are 2 fundamental ways to bring about economic development. And I firmly believe in the private market investment model. And IGP methanol exemplifies that. This project is multi-million, billion-dollar project. Will bring in many jobs to the parish. The difference between this project and the other touted projects where I couldn't get an answer how much taxpayer money was at risk is that in this project, not one taxpayer dollar is at risk. This is private market investment at its best, and I firmly believe that when a business model is good and it's valid and it's legitimate, you don't need taxpayer subsidies. And the IGP methanol project is just one of those. They identified part of the market where there was a need, and they're moving forward with this project. And in less than a year, they've already obtained an air quality permit. They're moving forward with another permit. This council and this administration worked with them to smooth over some of the regulatory hurdles, helping them with some zoning issues. And that's what this administration's philosophy of economic growth is, of aiding the private market in and letting the private market do the work that it's intended to do. So we are thankful for the IGP methanol interest in investing in Plaquemines, and we're very thankful that they're investing their money in Plaquemines as opposed to taxpayer money being spent. On Wednesday, September 19th, our coastal director, Mr. Vincent Frelish, and Mr. Robert Spears, who wears multiple hats, attended the CPRA meeting in Baton Rouge. We note that the over 20 letters of concerns and objections that have been put into the record are having a positive influence. It's changing the narrative and the debate on these matters. At that meeting, Dr. Rodrigo Diaz and Ian Knight gave a speech on the Roseau-Cane and what's going on there. And one of the doctors was kind enough to state that when it comes to our wetlands and the aquatic vegetative life, we don't have as much science or as many studies as, say, for sugarcane, corn, soybeans, because those are cash crops. And we all know that money tends to follow money, and that's unfortunate for us, because in a sense, our wetlands they make up our best and first line of defense against storm surge and hurricanes. So they do have an economic value in that they break down storm surge and protect all of our houses, protect our infrastructure, and our investments in this parish, such as this IGP methanol plant. And on that note, I'll ask Mr. Ken Ragus to give an update on this. It's in reference to a CPRA tour of the Fort St. Philip area. And I'll just preface the comments with two photographs and reference a 52-year scientific study by the Corps that we put up on the plaquemisparish.com website months ago, thanks to Mr. Ken Ragus. And anyone can find it. If you go to plaquemisparish.com, News and Events tab, and then the Coastal News tab, you scroll down to the second, it's on the second page. It's entitled The Pictorial Account and Landscape Evolution of the Crevasses. Some say diversions, some say crevasses, near Fort St. Philip, Louisiana. It's from January 2014. And if I may, I don't know, Mr. Ragus, did you have I know you brought, did you have something to put on or the screen? If not, I'll just, since we don't have, what I'm going to do is just approach, and we're going to show the picture from 1956 of the Fort St. Philip land with, and and then the picture from 1998. And the picture's worth 1,000 words. And if you may, while I approach and show that, you can go ahead and begin, Mr. Ragus.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to comment on the CPRA boat tour that occurred on September 12, 2018, which departed from the Fort Jackson area and proceeded to cross the river and go into the area of the Fort St. Philip crevasse, which occurred in 1973 south of the fort. Also, I'm kind of note the recent article in the Gazette covering the CPRA tour. To me, the title of the article was very misleading. It was, I quote, open quote, CPRA boat tours showcases land built by diversions, close quote. I say that phrase is erroneous and has misled many citizens of the parish. The area north and south of Fort St. Philip on the east bank of the river was the subject of a study performed in 2014 by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for the Mississippi River Commission. I know some of y'all are familiar with this because on the website I looked at the, I think it was the July 7th meeting that y'all had with the CPRA, and, where this was brought up by President Amos. That report dealt with the changes of landforms which occurred during the span of 52 years from 1956 to 2008 in that area south of Fort St. Philip. The conclusion of the report was that a 58% land loss occurred during that period. The majority of the land loss occurred between 1973 and 2008 when the river crevasse south of Fort St. Philip during the 1973 high river stage. The initial land mass study area contained 5,012 acres. That was the 1956 area. The subsequent land mass in 2008 was 2,102 acres. Therefore, the loss over that span of time was 2,910 acres that was lost to erosion caused by the flow of the Mississippi River during that 52-year period. To my knowledge, there has not been a detailed study of the area since 2008. I've looked at the Landsat satellite images, and based on my knowledge and looking at that, I think in the last 10 years, it has, the eroded area has increased somewhat. It's hard to tell because it's changing. The U.S. ACE has rocked the area near the river on several occasions to reduce the flow rate through the crevasse area because they were concerned that the crevasse would open up and the river would reroute itself through that area. That crevasse, by that report, was determined to be a land loss accelerant, not a land builder. During the first few years of right after crevasse, there were several narrow cuts formed by the river, eroding the historical acreage there. The existing river levee was completely gone. The banks of the cuts were approximately 2 to 2.5 feet high. As the erosion continued, every high river event, and the cuts widened and the banks continued to collapse and disappear. The land was washing out into Britton Sound. The present sediment level in the Mississippi River is about 150 milligrams per liter, based on CPRA source, which I handed out your paper that notes that. That is equivalent to 150 parts per million, essentially, in analytical terms. In other words, for every 1 million pounds of water in the river, there is just 150 pounds of sediment. That's almost infinitesimal. In the Gazette article, the river water was said to be referred to be sediment rich and the CPRA continues to describe the river water as being sediment-laden. Those phrases are simply not true. If anything, the river water is sediment-poor, and it's laced with an unknown quantity of foreign materials, which has been responsible for the Gulf of Mexico dead zone that appears every year of High River. The heavier sand portion of the river sediments stay in the bottom of the river. In addition, the article mentioned the crevasses south of Point LaHash, the Mardi Gras Pass fiasco. That crevasse has been responsible for the loss of 500,000 cubic yards of private property based on a mass balance encompassing the footprint of that stream source.
Mr. Ragus? Can you wrap it up?
One sentence.
5 minutes.
Yeah, one sentence.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Thank
I have
you.
one more sentence.
Thank you.
Oh. In addition, the crevasse south of Point LaHash to Baptiste-Colette Pass have decimated over 69,000 acres of virgin oyster reefs created by Mother Nature over thousands of years. The fresh water has destroyed the stable salt brackage ecosystem and created a questionable environment, part of which was destroyed during last winter's freeze. Oh.
And the only reason I'm saying this is I would like, Mr. President, going forward, items like this, I think they should be put on discussion so that they can be elaborated on and questions can be asked.
This is, with
Yeah,
all due respect, thank you, Mr. Ragus. Thank you for taking time out of your day. Thank you for coming to share this information. Without you, you're a concerned citizen, and I appreciate what you're doing. And it's truly shocking that in this case, we have a 52-year scientific study, and even if you don't believe science, we've got photographs from the 50s and recent photographs showing how much land was lost. So thank you for stating the truth and for coming here today. And I don't want to, at the risk of, don't want to fight. Well,
No, I contacted Ms. Toop's office on Monday and tried to get either yourself or someone else to
Yes,
sponsor
sir.
me, but they
Right.
said no.
Friday
they
was the
didn't have
deadline.
time.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Friday
Thank
was
you
the
very much.
deadline. Sorry.
on August 30th, in conjunction with our efforts to protect the interest of the long-term interest of Plaquemines Parish and the taxpayers and residents here, we also received a letter from the Executive Office of the President, this is the United States, Council on Environmental Quality from Washington, D.C. This is from Ms. Mary Newmeyer, who's the Chief of Staff. And our letters and our concerns are being heard in this environmental study that is ongoing. Also, the principal reason why I attended the meeting in Baton Rouge was there was a Go Mesa lunch and seminar sponsored by the governor's office. Go Mesa is the Gulf of Mexico Energy Security Act of 2006. There is tremendous promise through this legislation. Plaquemines Parish received a large amount of money this year because of Go Mesa. I've spoken often on this topic, and we had a good seminar on exactly how that money is calculated and how it gets distributed. One of the things that we learned at the seminar was that of the way the formula works is that there's 25% of the 25% of the monies are calculated based upon population. 50% of the monies are based upon coastal size. Plaquemines has an expansive coastline, and so that's why we benefit greatly, tremendously. We were one of the highest recipients of money, receiving over $1.6 million this year. Orleans Parish received a large sum as well, but their sum was based mainly because of their high population. They do not have as much coastline. That's why, so thanks to the residents of Plaquemines, because of the population, we are receiving, they also help us to receive some of those monies. Now, this is going to be something that we need to continue to track and follow, and the history is quite interesting. Suffice it to say, the Gulf Coast states have received the short end of the stick for far too long. In the western states, when mineral royalties are produced on federal lands, they effectively receive 90% of those mineral royalties. This has been ongoing for a half century. I'm proud to also announce, though, that there's a joint effort in Congress to further make the playing field more level or make it more fair, because the one downside to Go Mesa is that there was a cap put on the amount of money we would receive. To give you an idea, in 2016 alone, all production in the Gulf's federal waters generated over $2.7 billion for the U.S. Treasury. Now, remember, 2016 was the bust year. That's when all sunk down to $26 a barrel. Of that $2.7 billion, Louisiana received only 0.4% of it, or $11 million. We all know that our coast is the playing ground or the ground zero for where this production occurs, and or where the pipelines run through our coast to get that oil to the refineries and further inland. And so that is the main reason why I'm proud to say that Congressman Graves, and also joined by Congressman Bradley Byrne from Alabama, there's a House bill. They introduced a bill. It's H.R. 6771. And what this bill does is it will lift some of the cap. For example, currently 50% of the oil and gas revenues goes to the federal government. 37.5% is shared among Gulf states, and 12.5% goes to the Land and Water Conservation Fund. This bill will increase the state percentage to 50% of those mineral royalties and reduce the federal amount to 37.5%. I think this is, this bill removes the current $500 million revenue sharing cap. Production in the Gulf, there are many who are projecting it to increase, and by removing that cap, we will have a great source with which to do coastal restoration. And so I suggest we all follow this bill in Congress, because it could really aid both Plaquemines Parish and the state, as well as all Gulf Coast states as a whole. On Friday, September 21st, I want to thank Chevron and also Phoenix High School and the Second Harvest Food Bank. This is our first or only current food bank on the East Bank. And, you know, we were just speaking about energy. economists say that oil and gas is the energy that first world economies need. Well, if we don't have food, the human body is very fragile. And if we don't have food, that's our source of energy, then nothing else works. And without people to move an economy, nothing will go forward. And so we're very proud that Second Harvest Food Bank has opened. We had a grand opening there, and we're very in collaboration with the state, and we're very proud and happy to have them here in Plaquemines. I want to congratulate Our Lady of Perpetual Help Church and School. A wonderful fair was held over the weekend. A lot of fun was had, and the sheriff and I both got dunked more than one time. On Monday, September 24th, we had a meeting, another positive development, as many of you know, because of our statements in favor of Plaquemines. We have our newly appointed member to the CPRA board, Bill Bubrick. We had a meeting with him, the president of the Louisiana Oyster Task Force, the president of the Save Louisiana Coast. We invited our representatives from the state, and we had a debriefing session on current events there, and also put them up to date on some of our communications with the Council on Environmental Quality, as well as with the Corps. Tuesday, September 25th, we had a meeting. Councilman Russo was there on the status of the Good News Drainage Project. There are currently driving pilings there, and we just wanted to have a sit down with one of the residents who had some matters that wanted to be discussed, and we're staying atop those matters. We also had a meeting regarding some drainage issues along River Oaks Drive, and Director Don Beschel will be taking some action on that. Also on Tuesday, September 25th, I want to thank PABI for inviting Ms. Caitlin Burney to speak. She gave us an update on another congressional matter regarding the National Flood Insurance Program. There, the former chairman of that committee that oversaw that program, Chairman Henseling, will be retiring, I believe. And he will, with his departure, we feel there's reason for hope that we'll have a good flood insurance program in place and will be extended. And we'll continue to track that legislatively as well. Wednesday, September 26th, I want to thank Council members Roussel, Bartholomew, Trufant, and Juneau for attending the pre-council meeting. Those meetings are always helpful and enlightening. Also, on Wednesday, September 26th, yesterday, I want to congratulate our engineer, Mr. Ken Dugas, Miss Tina Lee, who was our intern in engineering department. I'll read. We had a email from one of the parents of the Belle Chase Cross Country facility, also a local businessman, who simply thanked the Plaquemines Parish Engineering Department for preparing and doing the work for the Plaquemines cross-country facility. We had the inaugural cross-country race, and congratulations to the Belle Chase cross-country team. Both men and women had victories. As we all know, earlier in the year we gave a proclamation. They won the state championship, and with the time of one of their runners, I think they're going to do quite well again, if not win it again. Finally, I want to clarify, for the sake of the record, first I want to thank Chief Roy Robichaux for the job he's doing, and also clarify for the record, because we have to be more cautious and careful in statements. I'll ask the member of the Finance Department just to, for once and for all, to clarify the record. In the 2018 budget, was there ever a $400,000 appropriation to buy ambulances?
No, sir.
No. Unfortunately, Chief Roy was, I'll use the term, criticized for not making purchases of ambulances based upon the bad information that $400,000 for ambulances had been appropriated in the 2018 budget. I am happy to see, though, on this agenda, a couple ordinances, and I certainly would encourage the support of these ordinances. I believe Councilman Lapine has one and Councilman Russo has one. I would simply say that investment in a long-term asset like this, a fire truck, an ambulance, that is a legitimate expenditure of BP monies, and that's where I would simply request that you take that from. And last but not least, I want to report and thanks to Mr. Avery Riley. He has agreed to come on as our new Human Resources Supervisor. When it comes to personnel, I'm taking the Coach Ed Ogeron approach. You recruit talent and put them in positions and let them go. Mr. Riley has a great resume. Not only is he a local product, but he attended graduate school in the Masters of Public Administration that he was pursuing. He's a graduate of law school. He's a member of the bar. He worked at the Department of Health and Hospitals for 2 years, and he also served as the East Baton Rouge Fixed Assets Manager. So we're thankful to have him on board. And with that, Madam Chairwoman, I yield my time.
Thank you, sir. So any questions or comments for the president from the table? From the audience? Hearing none. Next item, please. Do you want to go into executive session now, sir? Okay, let's do the board. Let's go to D, please.
1D, Plaquemines Parish Council as the Board of Review.
I'm going to ask Ms. Hazel, the assessor, to come up and elaborate on these items, and then we'll offer them for vote.
This will be short. Good afternoon, Chairwoman Smith-Williams, President Cormier, and council members and other members of the administration. For the record, I'm Belinda Hazel, Plaquemines Parish Assessor. I'm here today to address you in your capacity as the Plaquemines Parish Board of Review. Under Louisiana law, a parish assessor is responsible for listing and assessing all taxable property within the prospective parish at fair market value. This responsibility includes a duty to ensure that all taxable property is properly valued and assessed in accordance with Louisiana law and with the Louisiana Tax Commission's rules and regulations. The assessments before you today were prepared with the aid of field audit information gathered by Visual Lease Services, and the values have been determined in accordance with the Louisiana Tax Commission's rules and regulations. The Plaquemines Parish Assessor properly advertised the dates of the required public exposure period and provided the required notification to the taxpayer with a 15% or greater increase in assessed value. The assessor provided the required notification of to any taxpayer whose assessment included omitted property. The tax roll was made available for review for the 15-day required public exposure period, which this year began August 20th and ended on September 4th. The assessments are presumed to be correct, and it is the taxpayer who has the burden of proving otherwise. This year, there are a total of 8 taxpayers who have properly filed appeals for a total of 40 assessments. This compares to 39 assessments appealed last year. All 40 assessments under appeal are oil and gas related personal property assessments. At this time, I would like to read into the record a standing agreement that the assessor has regarding the pending appeals. It is as follows. In regards to the presentation of evidence, it is the assessor's position that if a taxpayer has timely and properly followed the procedure for filing an appeal with the Board of Review in accordance with the Louisiana Revised Statutes and the Louisiana Tax Commission rules and regulations, and the taxpayer chooses to waive its opportunity to be heard orally at the Board of Review hearing, this waiver will not prejudice the taxpayer's right to appeal the Board of Review decision to the Louisiana Tax Commission or to present evidence to the Louisiana Tax Commission. Having read that statement, my request today is that you affirm the assessments of the various companies that have appealed the 2018 assessed value that are before you today. And the evidence has been, I would like to introduce formally, Kim has a copy of our flash drive, and I'm always happy to take any questions that you have.
Any questions for Ms. Hazel? Thank you, ma'am. At this time, Ms. Barbara, could you read all those? We'll take them in globo.
Sure. 1, Connecticut Midstream Energy LLC, number 6, C626676. Wapiti Operating LLC, C618048. Whitney Oil and Gas, C019630. Energy Properties, Inc., C619994. Texas Petroleum Investment Company has the following assessments. C003350, C003500, C003850, C004300, C006250, C014625, C019600, C021700, C615821, C006900, C015900, C021900, C614488, C618969, and C621735. Upstream Exploration LLC has the following: C600510 and C599424. Lobo Operating Company, Inc. has the following: C004320, C004340, C06137799, C614042, C614485, C616239, C616402, C616404, C617687, C619991, C014785, C016710, C019100, C613800, C613802, C614568, C616403, C617116, C617693, C618134, Palm Energy Offshore LLC, C014776.
Thank you, Ms. Barbara. I'd like to offer all those appeals in globo. Can get a second? Seconded by Mr. Bartholomew. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come up and speak on any of these individually before we vote? Hearing none, at this time, the machine is open. The appeals are 7-0 with one abstention from Councilmember Black. I'm sorry. Next item, please.
Bids and advertisements,
There are none.
beer and liquor licenses,
Mr. Bartholomew? Mr. Black?
Yes, I have one. Hero Lands Company, 7427 Highway 23, Belchers, Louisiana. And that's all.
Mr. Lapine? Did you know? I have none. Mr. Russo? Mr. Byrd? Ms. Salvant? Mr. Edgecombe? None. Mr. Black, you want to offer?
Yeah, that's fine.
Black offers that liquor license, seconded by Mr. Lapine. Questions or comments? Hearing none, the machine is open. Approval 9-0. There's no objections. Can we take 4A, the 3 permits in Globo, please?
4A1, Locks LLC, application number 2018-185, dated March 14, 2018. Install pile clusters, drill the East Black Bay prospect number 6, and install wellhead protector, main pass area block 23, Councilmember Bartholomew. Number 2, Locks LLC, application number 2018-248, dated April 3, 2018. Install pile clusters, drill the East Black Bay prospect number 7, and install wellhead protector, main pass area block 23, Councilmember Bartholomew. Number 3, Fieldwood Energy LLC, application number 2018-632, dated September 6, 2018. Install concrete mats over an existing exposed 6-inch gas pipeline, Tiger Pass area, Councilmember Williams.
I'll offer. Seconded by Mr. Bartholomew. Is there any questions or comments from the table? Audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. Permits passed with 7 yes votes, 1 abstention from Mr. Black. At this time, I want to list the deferrals or withdrawals on the agenda. Item 6A1, 6O, and 6P will be deferred. Items 7E and 7F will be withdrawn. Does anyone have anything other than those? 7E and F are going to be withdrawn. Oh, as well as the executive session. Is the lawyer here? Thank you, Sue. Yeah. Okay, I'm good. We'll leave that executive session on there. So deferrals will be 6A1, 6O, and 6P, and withdrawals will be 7E and 7F. Does anyone else have anything other than those? 6A1, 6O, and 6P. P is in Paul. Yeah. Okay, Ms. Barber, can we move to, 6D will also be deferred? Mr. Lapine, you have any? You good? Okay. Okay, Ms. Barber, at this time, let's move into executive session.
Item 1A1, Plaquemines Parish Government versus MAP Construction, ABC Insurance Company, Travelers Casualty and Surety Company, Seisler Thompson, Brown Architects Project Design Group, LLC, and the XYZ Insurance Company, 25th JDC case number 61-741, Division B, Attorney Chris Tankersley, Councilmember Williams. And number 2, Plaquemines Parish Government versus Daniel S. Lott, the Royal Bakery et al., docket number 63-275, 25th JD Judicial District Court for the Parish of Plaquemines, ruling of Judge Michael Clement on exception of no right of action, effect on previous litigation of PPG and financial exposure of PPG. Councilmember Lapine.
At this time, I'd like to offer a motion to move into executive session. Can I get a second? Seconded by Mr. Edgecombe. Machine is open. Motion is granted. We'll move into executive session at 3:16 p.m. Like to call the Plaquemines Parish Council meeting back to order, coming out of executive executive session at 3:37 p.m. No action taken. Let's revert back to the items on the agenda in order, please.
Number 5, introduction of ordinances and resolutions.
Mr. Badalamy?
3. An ordinance, a resolution authorizing the parish president or his designee to advertise and solicit bids for a potential leaser and commercial lease of a portion of the East Bank Point Lahatch Marina and otherwise to provide respect thereto. A resolution requesting the Plaquemine Parish Development Board to conduct public hearing and to consider amendment of the Charter 22, Appendix B, Section 6, parentheses 1, 2, comma, J, parentheses 4, parentheses, and K, parentheses 1, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvement plan, water line, child replacement EB project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's all, Madam Chairman.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, one for now. An ordinance to amend the 2018 General Fund Manpower Structure and Operating Expenditure Budget, Flood Control Department, the 2018 Road Maintenance Fund Manpower Structure and Operating Expenditure Budget, Road Maintenance, Public Waterway Maintenance Department, and to authorize an emergency exception to the hiring freeze currently enacted on all vacant positions of Plaquemine Parish government, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's
If
all.
you haven't already done so, please silence your cell phones.
Madam Chairman, one more I have.
I'm sorry, you have one
A
more?
resolution directing the Department of Finance to prepare budgets for the former levy districts and incorporate into Plaquemine Parish Council by the Charter for Local Self-Government of Plaquemine Parish, Grand Prairie Levy District, Bureau Levy District, and West Bank Levy District, set forth all revenues for all sources obtained for land transferred from the state of Louisiana to those former levy districts, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. That's all. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. Mr. Levine? Mr. Juneau?
Yes, I have one. A resolution authorizing and directing any council providing assistance in pursuing claims described herein, including but not limited to Cormouche and Associates, LLC, DBA, Talbot, Cormouche and Marcella, Conic and Conic, LLC, Cossage, Sumich, Porcella, and Taylor, LLC, and Burglas and Tankersley, LLC, hereinafter collectively referred to as outside counsel, to cease and desist from performing any work associated with the legal action currently pending under the Coastal Zone Management Act as provided for pursuant to ordinance number 13210, other than to dismiss all actions and lawsuits pending pursuant to the Coastal Zone Management Act and ordinance number 13210 on November 8, 2018, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you. A resolution authorizing the parish president on behalf of the Plaquemine Parish Council to certify to the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development that the Plaquemine Parish government has complied with all FHWA/DOTD requirements in 2018 relative to bridges located in Plaquemine Parish under the Plaquemine Parish government's jurisdiction. A resolution establishing the dates, times, and places of public hearings on the proposed 2019 operating budget and on the proposed capital improvements budget covering a period of at least 5 years as submitted by the parish president, to authorize the council secretary to place the necessary public notice in the Plaquemine Gazette pursuant to Section 7.02A and Section 7.05C of the Charter of Local Self-Government, Parish of Plaquemine, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. In order to amend the 2018 General Fund Operating Expenditure Budget, Recreation Facilities and Services Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution to adopt the required CDBG-DR LA Safe program policies and procedures, accepts that receipt of program funds be administered in accordance with OCD-DRU granted administrative manual, appoint various coordinators/officers, authorize individuals to execute the request of payment, authorize the parish president to execute all documents related to the LA Safe program. Mr. Roussel? Mr. Burt? Ms. Salvant?
An ordinance creating a policy wherein the concession stand located at Ironton Park shall only be available for use during the Plaquemine Parish Recreation Department sanctioned games, for adult leagues utilizing the ball field and any other sporting events utilizing the ball field. Said policy shall not allow use of the concession stand to be included in the rental of the park grounds and or pavilion, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Edgecombe?
We have two, an ordinance to amend and as amended readopt ordinance number 18-41, which amended certain sections of Article 4 of the Plaquemines Parish Code of Ordinances and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of Donald Kinnear et al., Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, shown on the map of re-subdivision property of Donald Kinnear et al. By Bryant Hammett and Associates, certified by Hugh McCurdy II, PLS, dated May 23, 2018. The owner having fulfilled all of the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost of Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you, ma'am, that's all.
Next item on the agenda, please.
Ordinances and resolutions on second reading and final passage. 6A2, an ordinance of the Plaquemines Parish Council as and on behalf of the Buras Levy District to appropriate a new temporary work area easement in a certain portion of land in Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, to construct the New Orleans to Venice West Bank Hurricane Protection Levee Project, NOV-10, Happy Jack Tenarian, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, for levee, flood wall drainage, flood, access, and hurricane protection purposes, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Ms. Salvant?
Yes, I offer.
Ms. Salvant offers. Seconded by Mr. Edgecombe. Salvant?
Yes, what this is just, Mr. McGee, LV asked me to address this at this council meeting due to the fact that a previous piece of legislation was, came before this council, and we approved it for NOV 10 for a levee project from the Happy Jack to Naren. And what happened was this was an omission. They needed an additional easement, a 0.06 acres of land was needed for an additional easement. So this is what this legislation is about.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. Ordinance passes 9-0. Next item. Okay, we'll pass over B and C for now. BE.
6E, an ordinance authorizing the parish president, Amos Cormier III, to negotiate and enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with Plaquemines Parish School Board for the reciprocal leasing of certain property for the benefit of both political subdivisions and their citizens to enter into and execute lease agreements necessary thereto and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Ms.
I'll
Black.
offer. Offer.
Mr. Black offers. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Lapine.
Yeah, in discussion with the superintendent of schools and my counterpart in the District 2 School Board, Mr. Morrell, they expressed a need for additional parking space for the new Belle Chase primary school. We have some available land off of F. Edward Hebert, which is directly in between F. Edward Hebert, behind Community Action Agency, and the new location of the primary school. I have an attachment. It's approximately 4.33 acres. I have an attachment listed as Appendix A. The school board, I think, unanimously passed a resolution authorizing their attorney and the superintendent to sign a CEA or an agreement with PPG. I made some modifications to specifically list out the appendix, give a diagram of exactly which portion of property will be done. It's no expense to PPG. They had a horse stable there that I had Mr. Terrio's administration and the health department evict the folks that were there who were not paying rent on parish property, nor do they have insurance, so that's vacated. It's a dilapidated building. They're going to be responsible for the tear down of that particular horse stable, clearing of the land, and then the agreement is that once they pave it and make a parking area for the school, PPG and the citizens of Plaquemines will have use of that parking lot during non-school hours for recreation activities or any other types of events. So it's pretty much a win-win for both parties, and falls within the Louisiana Constitution for this type of activity to take place. That's all I have.
Any questions or comments from the table?
Question.
Yes, Mr.
Yeah, my question is, we sure we don't need it for recreation, for the future of recreation in no kind of way? That's the only question I have. We
No.
don't have a problem with it, no problem with me. That's the only problem.
No, sir.
Anyone else? Anyone from the audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. Legislation passes 9-0. 6F.
An ordinance to amend the 2018 firefighting fund operating expenditure budgets, firefighting, Belle Chase Department, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Ms. Lapine? Mr. Lapine offers, is there a second? Is there a second? Legislation dies for lack of a second.
6G will be deferred.
6G will be deferred.
6H, a resolution granting conditional approval for a plan of subdivision of Rennie S. Burris, map of re-subdivision of lots 5-Y1 into lots 5-Y1A, 5-Y1B, 5-Y1C, 5-Y1D, and 5-Y1E. Belle Chase Section D, Belle Chase, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the map of re-subdivision by Bryant, Hammett and Associates, certified by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, dated June 20, 2018, without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines.
Mr. Juno?
I say as read.
Mr. Juno offers is read. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Lapine. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, the machine is open.
Ms. Chairwoman, if you don't mind, I'd like to do a reconsideration on 6F
Yeah.
when you're finished.
That's fine. Okay. Legislation passes 9-0. At the request of Mr. Black, we'd like to offer a reconsideration for 6F.
An ordinance to amend the 2018 firefighting fund operating expenditure budgets, firefighting, Belle Chase Department, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
That's mine. They trying to go back.
Okay. Is there a second to Mr. Black's offer?
Yeah, but it's my reconsideration.
Okay.
Just
Seconded by
second.
Mr. Lapine.
This is just on the reconsideration.
Reconsideration, yes. Machine is open to vote on the reconsideration. The reconsideration passes with 6 yes, 3 noes. Read it again, Ms. Barber.
An ordinance to amend the 2018 firefighting fund operating expenditure budgets, firefighting, Belle Chase Department, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
I'll second.
Mr. Lapine offers, Mr. Black seconds.
What I gather is just a donation from Phillips 66 to the fire fund, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure why there's any objection to this. It's a $65,000 donation for equipment to the firefighters.
There was a misunderstanding of which one we're on. That's the reason.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yes.
So we accept the donation.
Yeah.
So you want to reconsider
Any
the
que-
reconsideration?
Is there any questions or comments? Hearing none, the machine is open.
What are we doing?
We're voting on 6F, which is a donation from Phillips 66 to the firefighting fund. Legislation passes 9-0. Thank you, Mr. Black.
6I, a resolution adopting a Federal Transportation Administration approved substance abuse management policy and drug-free workplace for Ferry Department personnel and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Bartholomew. This came to me from the administration. Mr. Giles, I'm assuming this comes from your office? Substance abuse policy for the Ferry Department. Yes. Would you like to elaborate? Oh,
Good afternoon.
State
The
your name.
amendments, I'm sorry,
state your name and position.
Stanley Johnson, Safety Engineer, Plaquemines Parish Government. There were some modifications needed to the existing policy that we have so that we can stay in accordance with regulations so that we can receive grant money. We bounced it around a few times, maybe 10 different times to get it down right. This is in regards to a triennial review that we had. I think it started in July. We finally got it finished. If we can get everything approved and get signed up, we get to go on it, and then we'll be able to continue receiving the grant money.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments from the table, from the audience? Hearing none, the machine is open.
Which one is that? K?
Aye. Legislation passes 9-0. Next item.
J, a resolution authorizing the parish president to enter any and all state entity agreements between Plaquemines Parish Government and the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development and/or Federal Highway Administration, which are or will be necessary to secure state and federal funding for ongoing transportation-related projects and otherwise to do all things necessary and proper to sign, perfect, perform, and enforce those agreements.
I'll offer.
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Juneau. This is just a formality for the parish president to enter in agreements with the state in order to be able to perform, to secure funding for ongoing transportation projects. Any questions or comments from the table? Audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. Legislation passes 9-0.
An ordinance to amend the 2018 firefighting fund operating expenditure budget, ambulance department, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes, this caused some of the confusion because I distributed the offer with changes prematurely, but the 6K offer with changes is what I'm offering. And next for a second, and I'll explain the changes.
Okay, Mr. Roussel offers with the changes that were passed around. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Juneau. Mr. Roussel?
Yes, what this does, this appropriates $400,000 for ambulances and $470,000 to firefighting for a new fire truck. The reason that I believe it's important for us to address these issues is because whether we privatize or not, we can't wait any longer on the ambulance situation. I've had too many reports and people telling me about the ambulance breaking down on the highway, no air conditioning ambulances, and it's a serious issue that needs to be addressed, whether we privatize or not. For the fire engine, Mr. Robichaud informed me that he has an engine that needs to be replaced, and I think that, you know, he knows what he needs. He always don't get what he wants, but he knows what he needs. So in this case, we have a fire engine that would be included in this. This comes from the unreserved, undesignated fund of the firefighting fund, which currently has $1.9 million in the fund. However, that is somewhat misleading because in the appropriations in the budget, we're probably about $750,000 short in collections. So at the end of the day, we'll have about $350,000 balance in the firefighting fund when all is said and done. So we're running a tight budget there, and that's the reason that we don't go any further. But I offer with that and ask for your support.
Any questions or comments from the table? Mr. Abdallah?
Yes. How much money we have in the Woodlawn Fire operation, but what for the building, for a new firehouse at Woodlawn? Chief?
You want to come to the mic,
Bob,
Mr. Robichaud, please?
That's what the fund balance is.
Roy Robichaud, Superintendent of Fire, about $1.8 million, Councilman
So
Bartholomew.
1.8 million?
Yes, sir.
It's still in there?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, my question, I cannot support anything until we take care of that firehouse, because that's long overdue, and we've been doing this for a couple of years, and it hasn't been done. Now, the money that is needed for the ambulance, we can take it out of some other areas, out of the BP money if necessary, or we can take the money out of BP and put it in the fire department to build a Woodlawn firehouse. But I cannot support taking any money out of the fire budget and leaving the Woodlawn firehouse like it is. It's not suitable. It has been evaluated by the health department and condemned, mold, rats, and everything else, and plus they got to have a trailer to stay in and to do what they need to do. So I cannot, I'm finished, Chief, that's all I need with you. I'm not talking to you, I'm just talking to the table. I cannot support that issue because of that. That's not being productive, because everywhere else where a firehouse was needed, it was built, except when it got to Woodlawn, we denied it. We took the money out of the fire department for construction of the Woodlawn building, and I don't think it's right. So that's my reason why I cannot vote for it. But I'll vote for the ambulance if we take it somewhere else.
This is coming from the unreserved undesignated. Is the Woodlawn fire money in that unreserved undesignated, that 1.8 million that you're referring to, or is that in a separate pool of money?
It's all
Ms.
one
Angie?
pot.
It's all one pot?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not a project.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, I have to
It is
make,
on-
Go ahead, Mr. Black.
I don't see it, Mr. Long, you have to tell me where you see it.
Mr. Black, you can go
Hold
ahead,
on.
we'll go back to them.
well, I'm waiting for, evidently there's a separate line item for Woodlawn.
Okay.
That was my
The
question.
bottom line budget's 1.8 now, or 1.9 now? So that
That
the
includes
money for
everything.
Woodlawn includes, is in there, is in that 1.9.
Undesignated. It's unreserved and undesignated. It is not in Woodlawn.
So it's a capital line item?
No, sir.
So unreserved undesignated is part of the $1.8 million that fire has left, or that's a separate fund?
It's unreserved and undesignated. It is, to be in Woodlawn, you have to create a project and move the
But
money
I'm just-
out
Right,
of
so is it there?
unreserved and
Just
into the
in
project.
general, they have 1.8 million their entire budget, which includes unreserved undesignated?
No, unreserved, undesignated is 1.9.
Yes.
The question Mr. Bartholomew asked is there a separate money, capital improvement budget for Woodlawn, and how much is in that line item?
There is no money dedicated right now for Woodlawn.
Okay.
The question is that we had $4 million when we
Had,
started.
yes.
For that firehouse. And this council took that money for EMS and whatever else relative fire, leaving that not being done. So I don't think we need to continue to leave it not being taken care of.
Mr. Black?
Right. So I'm going to get to that comment in 1 second. My issue is that for months and months and months, and back in August of 2017, I introduced an ordinance to appropriate the money that the president was talking about. As I said during that meeting that we had here, it laid over for 3 times and dropped off because nobody was here to talk about why do we need to spend that money. I've had that discussion ad nauseum. It's on the tape, review it, whatever. I introduced it. It fell off because nobody was here to talk about it. The issue I'm having is since that time, we've known we needed ambulances. Since that time, this council has asked the president to go out for proposals for privatization. So during that whole year period, number one, we knew we needed ambulances. Number two, the president knew that we wanted to explore the possibility of privatization, not that we're going to go with it, but to explore it. Now, all of a sudden, we want to appropriate capital funds, $470,000, and all of that I know is not going towards the ambulances. Some of it's going toward a fire truck, but the majority of it is ambulances. So we're going to go ahead and appropriate funds to buy new ambulances when we haven't even gotten the answer on privatization. I have no problem spending capital funds if I can get a commitment today from the administration that he is not interested, and this council is not interested in privatizing. If that's the commitment that you guys want to say, and say, we don't want to privatize, then I'll take a next step about the funds. But if privatization is off the table, then we can find the money for the ambulances and the fire truck. No doubt about it. But if it's still a possibility, it doesn't make sense to go by capital when you may not need that capital in a couple months. So I'm asking you, Mr. President, are you against privatization?
Councilman Black, I trust Chief Roy Robichaux. He's requesting this equipment. You have defunded the regular recurring replacement of inventory and equipment. This is common sense, and
We have not defunded
that's
that.
the answer.
So my question is...
You have. We've always had inventory replacement. Every legitimate business, when you have inventory such as a fleet of trucks, fleet of ambulances, fleet of fire trucks, you put into the budget the recurring and replacement of that inventory as it gets old. Now, I trust Chief Roy Robichaux. I trust when these I've been told, speaking with members of our fire department, we have trucks from the 1980s that they're still keeping running.
So when
And
you
you
say...
can only extend that so long.
So when you're saying that this council defunded it, are you saying that was due to the merger?
Look, Councilman Black,
I'm just asking a
I know
question.
you're always there. We know the game. Bottom line is you have an ordinance. Your job.
I don't know why you keep looking over
You're
here.
not a commission council member.
I'm Councilman Black.
You're
This is
not-
Councilman Dean. I speak for Councilman Black.
Yes or no? Yes or no? The question was a yes or no question.
Listen here.
Are you against
got your little
privatization?
Look,
If so, I'll move to my next step.
look, you are a council member. Either fund the request or don't fund it. You're not a commission council member.
I'm a
I know you
council
wanna
member
try to run
who
the
is
government.
responsible for using the taxpayers' money to fund for services. I'm not going to take taxpayer dollars and spend on capital if we're going to privatize. If you tell me right now, Councilman Black, you're right, I'm totally against privatization, I'm not moving forward with proposals, stop asking me about it, and I will. Just tell me that. Are you against privatization? And I'll move to my next step.
I'm going to do just like you did when the port committee meeting here, when I couldn't get a straight answer for the $18 million spent on land. So that's not the question posed here today. The question is, you've got to vote. Either you meet the request
And
of
I'm
the
not-
fire department or you don't.
And I'm
Councilman
not
Black,
going to
just that
spend,
simple.
I'm not going to spend $400,000. It's
Point
not.
of-
How's it a point of order? I challenge the point of order. I'm
Your
talking
question's
about...
not being answered. Move on.
The legislation doesn't state that. There's nothing in this legislation, Chairwoman Williams, and I know you got your little trilogy over there.
Excuse me, sir, you're out of order. You're out of order. He just asked you a simple question,
It's out of order.
sir.
This doesn't say anything about privatization.
What it says is to spend $470,000 of capital funds, of taxpayer dollars. My question is, I cannot vote to spend capital funds to go buy 2 ambulances that if we privatize in 2 months, we won't need those ambulances. And we'll lose that money from depreciation. So if it's the government's wishes to privatize, I cannot vote on this. If it is the government's wishes to not privatize, then I can.
Well, Mr. Black, I think you've been asking the question for over a year and you haven't got an answer,
I
so
have
I would
not.
assume it's,
Chairwoman Williams, point of order. This thing does not say anything about privatization. Now,
next item, please.
But that's also where the money
Wait,
comes
we got to
from.
vote on this item, hold on. Point of order.
No, he wanted to move on to something else. He wanted to speak on another topic related to this.
Okay,
So
but-
that's what I meant, move on to that.
All right, because we're not moving on until we get a vote on this.
No, we are.
Well, I'm not ready to vote yet. I have another question. I have another issue. If we want to go ahead and take the money, capital money, we shouldn't be taking out of firefighting fund anyway. If you're against the merger again, you don't want to merge, you don't want to privatize, so guess what? We'll go back to introductions after this, and here's an introduction I
let's-
have to annul and
we'll
set
move to that
aside
one.
1571. We'll set aside the merger, and I'll ask Mr. Russo to amend this to take out however much money they need for the fire truck, and we'll take it out of the firefighting fund, and we'll amend it to take out however much we need from the ambulances from the regular general fund.
Do you want my answer now or later?
I'm not a reading, yes, go ahead.
Mr. Black, you and I both know that to unfund or decouple the merger blows millions of dollars of holes in our budget. That's why it was
Absolutely
done.
does.
So that is a false issue to put on the table. Right now, I'm trying to appropriate $400,000 for ambulances and a fire truck to be able to provide people with a way to get to the hospital without breaking down on the highway and having some air conditioning in the back to be able to comfortably get to the hospital if they survive. Now, whether we privatize or not, these ambulances can be part of the privatization package if we get to that point. But to delay this any further is irresponsible of this government when we've heard so many times the problems that we have with the ambulances.
And why do we have those problems? We discussed that last time we were in this exact building, Mr. Roussel. And if somebody is mismanaging that department, and I'm not talking about the chief, I'm talking about the people on top of the chief. If people are mismanaging that department, then I'm not going to keep throwing money at it to fix the problem. And you know good as well as I do, Mr. Roussel, that all this is doing is putting a Band-Aid on the problem. The problem is systemic. The problem is, because he won't answer two questions. Number one, are you against privatization? Number two, are you going to support that merger? And let that man that sits back there who knows what the hell he's doing actually run the department, EMS and the fire department. If you say yes to those questions, or no to privatization, yes to that answer, I'll give you all the money you want.
Call the question.
Well, let me just say this. I'm going to close on this legislation. No matter what happens down the road, this is a responsible move, fiscally responsible. It comes from the unreserved, undesignated fund that supports these departments. This is where the money should come from. And to put all of the politics in the way of what we're trying to do doesn't help that person who's sitting on the side of the road needing a ride to the hospital. We need to get those people to the hospital. The bottom line is that we've heard this, and we went for months hearing about that there was $400,000 in the budget to buy ambulances, and come to find out that money wasn't there. And people operated on the fact that, why didn't the administration buy the ambulances? Well, a simple answer was, and I don't know why they didn't present it sooner, was that the money wasn't there. So now I'm trying to put the money there so they can do what they need to do, and I call the question.
Question has been called on the legislation. Machine is open.
And actually go back to item 5 after this.
Legislation passes 7-2.
Thank you for the wise decision that many of you made.
A political
At the
decision.
request,
by you,
at the
Mr.
request of
That's
Mr.
not a good
Black.
comment to
at
say.
the
That
request-
wasn't a wise
At the
decision.
request of
No,
Mr. Black, we're
political.
going to revert back to item 5 on the agenda.
Introduction of resolutions and ordinances.
An ordinance to annul, rescind, and set aside an ordinance number 15-71 adopted May 28, 2015, which transferred, reorganized, and consolidated the ambulance department and the Plaquemines Parish Fire Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Answer to your constituency now, Mr.
I second.
That will be no problem. Mr. Black, if that's what you
Item
challenge me to
6L,
do,
please.
I will
6L.
gladly do it.
A resolution to approve cooperative agreement LA Gov. number 20003578868 with the State of Louisiana Department of Natural Resources for the Plaquemines Parish Local Coastal Program implementation, to authorize the execution of said agreement by the parish president and otherwise to provide with respect
Mr.
thereto.
Roussel.
I'll offer as filed.
Mr. Roussel offers. Mr. Burt seconds.
What this does is it approves the cooperative endeavor agreement with Louisiana State Department of Natural Resources for our local coastal program, which they help fund.
Any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. Legislation passes 9-0. Next item.
M, a resolution approving the issuance of a 2-year extension to Plaquemines Dirt and Clay Company, LLC, for the excavation of a borrow pit on property located in a floodplain zoning district at 22222 Highway 23, Point Celeste, Louisiana, all in accordance with application number 2013-4372 dated September 6, 2015.
Ms. Salvant? Salvant offers. Is there a second? I'll second. Ms. Salvant?
Thank you. Yes, everyone know the drill on this. They're merely asking for a 2-year extension to their permit on their borrow pit, and I just would like to add that all of the fees are up to date, has been paid, and that's about it.
Any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. Legislation passes 9-0. Next item.
6N, an ordinance to amend the Recreation Director pay to place in alignment with other directors and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Ms. Salvant?
I offer.
Ms. Salvant offers. Is there a second?
Oh, I'm sorry, I do have changes, thank you.
Ms. Audrey offers with the changes that are being passed out. Once we see the changes, we'll see if there's a second. You have to wait for the changes.
Thank you, Kim.
Okay, Ms. Audrey, you want to read the changes and then request a second?
Yes, on line 5, we would add behind the word "to" 55,000. On line 15, again, the same, we would add 55,000 behind the word "to." In line 18, we would add by appropriating $14,330 from the general fund unreserved undesignated funds. In line 25, it would, under amendment, it would be, the amount would be $12,690. Line 26, FICA would be $180. Line 28, retirement would be $1,460. And with that, I
With those changes, Ms. Salvant offers. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Byrd. Ms. Salvant?
Yes, actually, this legislation was given to me by the administration, and I, in complete concurrence with it. Our current director have actually turned the Recreation Department completely around, and I think all I'm hearing from it is good news with the kids. And he came in, and I understand there's going to be some naysayers about that he understood what the amount was when he accepted the job, but he has done some miraculous things since he's been there, and I think it's an insult for him to be, what he was unaware is that he was being lower paid. His salary was lower paid than some of his subordinates. So I'm in full recommendation of this increase.
Thank you, Ms. Salvant. Any questions, comments from the table?
Yes. And this salary is in Recreation Director in Jefferson Parish makes well into, I think it's about $180,000 a year. In Orleans Parish, they make 6-digit salaries. So it was, to call it the current salary of less than $37,000 speaks for itself. So I appreciate at least getting it up to $50,000 a year for our children in the parish, for those who care about recreation.
Thank you.
I got a question.
Mr.
You
Black?
know, it's got to be election time, because, you know, we sit back a few months ago, and the president's advocating for a raise for a guy who's been here less than a year. Not saying he's not doing a bad job. I think he is doing a good job. But I've never been in an organization where you get a raise within a year. You know, matter of fact, Mr. Barbay asked me to give a raise to one of his paralegals, Ms. Dana Ocello, about 3 months ago. And I came before this council, and I was accused of cherry picking, because I was pointing out one employee, although Mr. Barbay had asked me to do it. I asked for your opinion, Mr. Cormier, and we can go back on the tape, but you said we shouldn't be giving any raises to anybody right now. We should wait to the budget hearings. So I'm not sure why that employee didn't get that same benefit as this other employee, which that employee's been here for probably a dozen years. Yesterday, we received an email from Ms. Val Regas from Permits Department, who is doing 3 times the amount of work that she's supposed to be doing in permits as a permit coordinator, asked about getting a raise. So we should just go and say, and that lady's been here almost 30 years, and she makes less than $40,000 a year. She makes the same amount of money as a director of recreation. So why are we going to sit here and make people unclassified positions and that's not even been here a year and promote their increases? You know, and I will say, Ms. Sullivan, because you brought it up, we had this conversation. And I said I would defer my stuff on recreation, but we should not, and I talked about an increase for him, and I said I think he should get one, but not right now. At the budget hearings, possibly, yeah. And I thought you were going to wait until that point, which is the most appropriate time to do it, you know? But that doesn't seem to be the case. So if we want to just go ahead and cherry pick, like you say, and point out people and give them raises, then let's do it. But I can't understand why we can't wait until the budget hearings in less than 2 months and go through everybody's positions.
Councilman Back,
No,
go ahead.
Ms.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Chairman, to answer your question, Mr. Black, and I do remember my words. My words are cherry picking, and I still stand by those terms. But the difference here is, I realized that I was elected as a council member, not a parish president. This legislation that I'm putting forward is in collaboration with a recommendation from the administration. I'm not trying to do the president's job. I don't go ahead of him, I collaborate with him. So that's the difference. That's the difference in the legislation that came forward previously compared to what's happening here today. This was a collaboration with the administration, which is in line with your charter. I'm not going ahead of him. I'm a council person. I'm not the parish president. Thank you.
Mr. Cormier?
To further make the distinction here, when you voted for a close to $200,000 salary for the port director, and when you voted for the deputy director of the port, $120,000 a year salary, this argument was made, well, this is what the market bears. This is where other people are earning. And here in this case, other parishes are paying their recreation directors six-digit salaries. You had the number set at $36,000 and change, almost, I'll round up and call it $37,000. Now, that is not what the market bears. If that's what you think the children and our recreation department is worth, then that speaks for itself.
That's not what I
Councilman
think. That's not what I think. But what I also know is that Director Henry, no matter how good of a job he is doing or he's not doing, is that when Director Henry, like Ms. Sullivan said, took the job, he took the job on that salary. I have no problem adjusting his salary at the appropriate time. Adjusting it in the middle of an election for an unclassified employee in the middle of the year is not the appropriate time. The appropriate time is at the budget hearing. So I'm asking you to defer it when we can address all employees' salaries, not just one particular person. The
Lady
person who
Chairman?
actually started the job at that particular salary that he's at now. He knew the salary, unless, Mr. President, somebody promised him a raise at some point in the
Ms.
year.
Salvan?
Lady Chairman, I call a question.
Ms. Salvan calls the question. She called the question. Henry? Mr. Russell, are you voting on this legislation? Legislation passes 8 with 1 abstention from Mr. Black. 8 yes votes. Next item, please. Next item,
New
please.
business, 7A1.
Just like you do.
Introduction of resolutions wherein a suspension is being sought.
Yeah.
A resolution indicating the intention of the Parish of Plaquemine, State of Louisiana, to become a participating political subdivision in the Louisiana Local Government Environmental Facilities and Community Development Authority, approving the appointment of a director to represent the Parish of Plaquemine on the Board of Directors of the authority, and otherwise to providing with respect thereto as provided by Chapter 10-D of Title 33 of the Louisiana Revised Statutes of 1950 as amended.
I'd like to offer a motion to suspend the rules on this item, please. Can I get a second? Seconded by Mr. Juno. The machine is open to suspend the rules to take this item up. Motion to suspend the rules is granted. Move on the item, please, Ms. Baldwin.
A resolution indicating the intention of the Parish of Plaquemine, State of Louisiana, to become a participating political subdivision in the Louisiana Local Government Environmental Facilities and Community Development Authority, approving the appointment of a director to represent the Parish of Plaquemines on the Board of Directors of the authority, and otherwise providing with respect thereto as provided by Chapter 10-D of Title 33 of the Louisiana Revised Statutes of 1950 as amended.
I'd like to offer this legislation. Can I get a second? Seconded by Ms. Salvant. This is just a formality to be in compliance with the Louisiana Revised Statute as stated, indicating that the Plaquemines Parish President will sit on this board.
What's the purpose of the board?
It's the Louisiana Governmental Ethics and Facilities. It's a board that Kim got. I wasn't aware of this until we got an email. The parish presidents are always sitting on it, and the term is set to expire. The previous parish president was on it, and when Mr. Cormier came in, he just assumed that role, and it's expiring before our next council meeting. So that's why I had to suspend the rules. It's always the parish president, yes. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, the machine is open. Resolution is granted 9-0. At the request of Mr. Black, we're going to revert back to item 6C, please. 6C. C is in Charlie.
An ordinance to amend the 2018 General Fund Manpower Structure and Operating Expenditure Budget, Recreation Facilities and Services, and Public Awareness Departments, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Black, offer? Mr. Black offers. Is there a second? Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Bartholomew. Mr. Black?
Yeah, I need to make some changes. On line item, it's either going to be, Angie, it's either going to be 47 or maybe 62. Actually, get rid of all of that. Just add, I guess on 47. We got a unreserved undesignated fund number. Who you gave it to?
He's probably driving.
Huh?
I withdraw my second.
You going to withdraw your second because she's not here? Mr. John withdrew his second.
Yeah.
Is there, she's coming back? Okay, can we pass over this? We'll come back, revert back to it, Mr. Black?
Yes. I want to add 2 employees to directly supervise.
7B.
Update and presentation by District 7, Councilmember Trufant Salvant.
Ms. Salvant?
I just would like to say, the opening of Ironton Park was a grand success, and I just want to take the opportunity to thank the administration for all of the support, all of the legwork, all of the directors, assistants that went into making the park a success. And I want to also thank the colleagues that showed up, Mr. Kurt, Mr. Lapine, Mr. Juno, and Mr. Parish President Cormier. It was a wonderful day, made by a lot of the residents. We had a big time, a fun time with the reopening of the park. It was a historical event because it was a reopening of the park, and we had not utilized that park since since Katrina, so it was a big deal for the community residents, and had a lot of good time eating and a lot of good food. And as you can see on the Gazette, that it was a lot of good time, a lot of seafood that was out there. So it was a big fun day for everybody. So now the park is officially open, and we're looking forward to utilizing the park with the recreation department. The kids can now have a midway from the southern end. They won't have to travel all the way to Belle Chase to utilize the grounds. At Belle Chase, they can have a midway, if you please, that they can utilize Ironton Field. So I just want to thank everybody that went, and mainly Mr. Wallace, who's no longer with us. He was the initial person that really did ground, that cut ground on the park. So I just want to give a lot of shout out to your administration, Mr. Cormier, for all of the success, for all of the assistance. Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
have, ma'am?
Thank you so
Yes.
much. And please forgive me, I was in my status report, and I admitted it, but that was a wonderful Saturday, wonderful time had by all, and we're happy. Thanks to the council for its assistance, and thank you for your leadership, Councilwoman Trufant, for spearheading and pushing that along. I know it's a big, wonderful asset to our community.
Just your presence meant a lot. Thank you.
I want to thank you, Ms. Audrey, for inviting me. I really had a great time, reminisce with some old friends, and it was a great day to be around some good food. So
Thank you
thanks
for
having
showing
me.
up.
Okay. Next item, please.
C, District 1 update, Councilmember Bartholomew.
Don't have a firehouse at Woodlawn. Don't look like I'm gonna get one. Water line is bad, up the road it keep breaking. Can't put a fire out.
Nothing positive, sir?
Can't put a fire out. Don't have enough water pressure to do anything. We need a water tower. These are necessities of life. When we talking about life, those are necessities of life. And every time we try to do it, we can't get it done because of lack of funding, lack of support. That's all I got to say.
Okay. What'd you say? I'm
7D
sorry.
is deferred. 7E, discussion regarding a dedicated fund and line item for the revenues received from the levy districts.
E and
Oh,
F
that's
are
withdrawn,
withdrawn.
I'm sorry.
We need, and G is deferred, we're moving to H, correct? Oh, by opposite, I'm sorry. Let's move on G, H is deferred.
Update on status of quad and pavilion at the state school property, Councilmember
Mr.
Lapine.
Lapine?
Mr. Cormier, I just would like to get an update on the quad and the pavilion. I know you expressed some of desire the other day that the quad had some issues on it, but I was wondering, can the pavilion be set out for bid? I know we separated that back in February when we transferred some of the Sandiac money. So I was want to know when that can be put out for bid for the kids, for the multipurpose center. I don't think it has any issues. We can get that up and running. We could separate the projects. You know, that thing could be a big multipurpose center with basketball courts, volleyball courts, indoors. So I'm just wondering, when can we send that out for bid?
Thank you, Councilman Lapine. Insofar as the quad, you're correct. At the last council meeting, we discussed that. There was a oxidation pond, that's where the sewer goes, that was missed, completely missed and omitted in the plans of Bergdahl and Graves after they were paid about $500,000, and they also pulled out of the contract. So you're correct on that. As regards to the pavilion, that was the site yesterday where we had the first inaugural Plaquemines Parish cross-country meet, and that was the site where the awards were given out. As to the exact status of further modifications to the pavilion, I'll turn that over.
The easy answer on that is we had that ready to go, and I was just about to send it out, and we got the judgment in that other Division P matter. So as long as that other motion is pending, until I get a response on that, I don't feel comfortable expending funds on property there may be an issue on. So my answer would be, hopefully, we will fix that shortly and get it out. It's all ready to go, the bid package.
Well,
was
that's my
approved.
point, is the quad, not the quad, I'm sorry, the pavilion, is that ready to go out for
Yeah,
bid?
it's ready to go out.
Okay, so
Everything's been completed on it.
What's holding up is this legal
Yes.
ramification?
Yes. So as
My-
soon as I get a response on our motion, I will immediately send it out. I actually had it so far as to type out the response saying, please go ahead and do it, when that came out, and that issue came up. So
Well, I wish you would move forward. I think the Gazette would print it tomorrow if you did, and we could get moving on it. I think that's very important for the kids. I know you have your interpretation, but I wish we would get moving on it.
I promise the second I can, I will. I mean, it's all done. There's nothing left to be done except for send it out. So
Are we at risk of losing the Sandy Act funding, or do we have a time frame that we have to utilize those funds by, or?
that I don't know the answer.
I can tell you an answer to that. We've been having it for multiple years since Superstorm Sandy hit. And when another tragedy hits somewhere in this nation and Congress decides, hey, you know what, Blackman's Parish
Didn't you?
has $7.5 million of our funds, maybe we can utilize that somewhere else, they'll take it. Because we've been sitting on our hands for this many years and haven't done anything with it. We have a project that's ready to go to bid. Like Mr. Lapine said, it can be signed off by you guys and submitted to the Gazette probably today or tomorrow and be in the paper on Monday. Bids will come in, and that thing will be built within the next 6 months. I don't think that has anything to do with litigation or anything else. So, you know, from the legal track record, I would go ahead and gamble on that federal money, Mr. Barbee, that the Villery and Shank case is not going to be overturned on some technicality that you guys have conjured up. So I would ask you to go ahead and, as you know, we've had this discussion, but the council attorney has a disagreement with you in your interpretation of Judge Clement's ruling. So,
Well, it's funny you should ask that, because I'd like to make sure we're clear on that. There's a Fourth Circuit case right on point on the exact same issue that I think that, Mr. Black, you ought to stop to consider. This exact issue, almost to a T, came up where DOT was sued in St. Bernard Parish, and there was another judgment in another case which the state objected to and said it made their whole case go away. The Fourth Circuit basically confirmed my exact thought that if there is a possible nullification out there, it can be brought at any time. So if you'd like to read Hernandez versus State, I'd be happy to give you a copy of it.
what I would like is that
Because-
when we have an executive session and this council asks you that specific question, and unless you have a printer underneath your desk that just printed that Fourth Circuit ruling out, then you must have had it before. Why wasn't that information given to us in executive session when we asked for it, and you had a back and forth with our council attorney? So I'm not sure why information was getting.
I don't understand. I mean, you've got somebody who gave you a different opinion than mine. I stated mine.
My council attorney.
He stated his.
But you have documentation
We are
of
on the
Fourth Circuit
quads.
ruling that you have in your Rolodex there, and instead of bringing that up in the executive session when we talked about this issue and said, hey, Danny, hey, Mr. Black, hey, council, I have a Fourth Circuit ruling, you bring it up now. So I'm not sure why you didn't bring it up then.
I didn't hear Mr. Garrett bring up any case law or any facts, just his own opinions. That's
Oh, my,
all I-
wow, he did, anyway. Move to item 5 after this.
Item 5?
Yep.
Okay. Can we revert back to item 5, please?
Introduction of resolutions and ordinances.
Mr. Black?
An ordinance to increase all Plaquemines Parish government employees' salaries by 3% effective January 1st, 2019, as a one-time special increase due to the BP settlement, with funds being utilized from the BP settlement fund, and otherwise without respect thereto. What's good for one is good for all.
Okay, Mr. Black, is in regards to item 6C.
She's not here, let's go home.
You want to defer?
Yep.
What about 6B?
B, defer. So B and C will be deferred.
6H, discussion regarding the status of title to state school property. Councilmember Lapine.
That's going to be deferred.
Be happy to talk about it.
Item
Number 8, approval of minutes from the September 13, 2018 meeting.
I'll offer. I offer, seconded by Mr. Juno. Machine is open on approval of the minutes. Hey, can y'all have a seat so we can vote? Can y'all have a seat so we can vote to conclude the meeting, sir? Approval of the minutes passes 8-0. Mr. Edgecombe makes an offer to adjourn, a motion to adjourn. I second. Machine is open on adjournment. Meeting is adjourned at 4:37 PM.